The Washington Commanders' path to victory in Los Angeles in Week 5 has to start with the run game, but the defense can't find some consistency. It might all be for nothing. That and more coming up right now on Locked On Commanders.
You are Locked On Commanders, your daily podcast on the Washington Commanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Locked On Commanders. I'm David Harrison, your guy on the ground covering the Washington Commanders for WUSA 9. And I'm right here with you 5 days a week. You can also find me writing about the Commanders for Sports Illustrated's CommanderGameDay.com. And you can follow me on X at DHarrison82. Want to thank you for making Locked On Commanders your first listen or your first view today, and to the everydayers who come through for every single episode. A special thank you goes out to you for coming through yet again for this one. If it's your first time coming through, welcome to the show. Hopefully you enjoy it and you come back for more later on. Coming up on today's episode, we're going to build some wagers. We're going to look for a little bit of juice on Sunday from this Washington Commanders game plan. But first, we're going to talk about some of the key things that are going to help Washington beat the Chargers, and we're going to look at who's going to be inactive and active for this game. All of that coming up on today's episode of Locked On Commanders, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like the players, they sweat every single detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for this week's Moving the Game Forward highlight by Mazda. Move and be moved. So for the Washington Commanders, first and foremost, we are here in Los Angeles. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're not, sorry that you can't see it, but if you're watching on YouTube, you got a great view of the Coliseum. Yes, that's a picture. We were supposed to do this show from the Coliseum, but there were some logistical issues, including the Wi-Fi not working out there at the stadium. So back here at the hotel, I figured I'd at least throw up a picture of the Coliseum that I was able to take while we were out there, just so you can get a glimpse of it again if you're on YouTube. Either way, YouTube or audio, regardless, we are here in Los Angeles preparing for the game. Practice on Friday afternoon. A little bit of a peek behind the curtain. I flew out of Dulles on Friday morning and made it to Los Angeles, got my rental car, jumped onto the highway and made it to practice there at the Coliseum. So very long day here, but very fruitful day. Quarterback Jayden Daniels officially active. Yes, we all expected it. We all expected it from the final gun in Atlanta, but so really good to see him out there all week. Really good to have that final confirmation that he is going to get to play. And yes, this is a little bit of a homecoming game for him. Of course, he was a star quarterback at Cajon High School, played for the Cajon Cowboys, and it's like 70 miles away from Los Angeles where this game is going to be played. Expect a heavy, heavy presence of Jayden Daniels supporters. I've gone as far as to speculate that there might be more Jayden Daniels fans in the stands than there are Justin Herbert fans, just because of the way you all Commanders fans travel, the amount of home love that he's going to be getting there in the stadium, and the fact that, from what I'm told, the Los Angeles Chargers just simply are not that much that embraced by the Los Angeles community. So either way, both of these teams, Commanders and Chargers, both coming off of disappointing road losses. Of course, the Washington Commanders lost the Atlanta Falcons. You know that. We've been talking about that. But the Los Angeles Chargers lost on the road last week to Jackson Dart and the New York Giants. Both teams are going to be looking to get a little bit of their mojo back, a little bit of their juice back. But for the Washington Commanders, of course, their issues surrounding explosive passes, explosive plays just in general, poor third down execution on both sides, offensive and defensive side of the ball. And in the Chargers' loss to the New York Giants, their offensive line was unstable, to say the least, but also suffered even more injuries that are going to lead to some concerns into this game. Specifically, offensive tackle Joe Alt is going to be out for this game with an ankle injury. Wide receiver Darius Davis also out for this game. And that just kind of adds to some of the injuries that they've been dealing with. The Chargers injury report, offensive lineman Mekhi Becton has been going through concussion protocol. He is officially questionable for this weekend's game. Tight ends Will Dissly and Tucker Fisk, both also questionable for the game. For the Washington Commanders, obviously Jayden was kind of the big story, but some of the big names during the week, Deebo Samuel showed up on the injury report with a heel injury. Mikey Sanders still showed up on the injury report as well. And then defensive tackle Daron Payne popping up on the injury report on Thursday. And that was a little bit more concerning just because he wasn't on there Wednesday, which means there was no injury or no knee bothering or pain to the point where it would put him on the practice report or limit him on the practice report for Wednesday. But then Thursday, He was limited, although he was also listed as knee/rest, right? Friday did not participate. He was out there on the field with his teammates, but not really participating in practice. However, Dan Quinn did confirm after practice that Daron Payne is going to be a full go for the game. So are tight end John Bates, which is huge to get him back. Defense been Dorrance Armstrong, who showed up with an illness this week, and wide receiver Deebo Samuel, who's not only active for the game, but he's also one of the team captains coming into it. So that is kind of the lay of the land there. Obviously, the guys that didn't travel out here to Los Angeles are not going to be able to play. Terry McLaurin, Noah Brown among them, but there are a good amount of guys coming back, and it's not the healthiest we've ever seen this team, but it is a good sign that this team is starting to get healthy, get some players back. If they can get a really big road win here in Los Angeles, that would be a great shot of morale, all that kind of stuff, and then going back home Monday night next week against the Chicago Bears. So let's get into how the Washington Commanders get a win here in Los Angeles. Washington wins, to me, if they first and foremost establish a physical rushing attack. Coach Dan Quinn called it the quote unquote formula. Jaden Daniels called it the quote unquote identity of the team. And I think I agree with that. I think the first 4 weeks of every NFL season is the time for coaching staffs to kind of figure out who they are. And the thing about who you are as a team, there is an element of who the coach is and who the coach wants you to be and all that kind of stuff, of course. But there's also an element of the team just kind of showing you who they're going to be through their play, through their execution. And I think if you've been watching the last 4 games for the Washington Commanders, you probably agree this needs to be a run first offense. That's what this offense does the best right now, due to whether it's injury, experience, whatever is happening. The bottom line is they run the ball better and their games go better when they establish that run. So I think Cliff Kingsbury, that needs to be task number one, is getting that ground game going. That, of course, is going to help them control the clock, control the ball, put the Los Angeles Chargers, hopefully, in playing from behind mode, and also with the clock draining down, puts them in some obvious passing situations, and that's how you exploit that Chargers injured offensive line, which of course is going to be another key. Daron Payne, he's going to be able to play. Javon Kinlaw is going to be looking to kind of make up for last week's performance, and then Frankie Louvu, the linebacker, is going to be looking to stack really good performances. Look for Dorrance Armstrong Jr. to get back into the sack stat box, sack business. Looking for him to get his 4th sack of the season. And then you got to limit those explosive plays, right? And look, this is easy for any talking head, any voice on the radio to say, limit the explosive plays. It's harder to actually manufacture it and do it. But we know that this defense, just from knowing them last year, you see the additions this year, they're better than they've showed themselves to be. And that's kind of something. If I'm Joe Witt Jr., I'm not even worried about what the David Harrisons of the world are saying or what the fans of the world even are saying. I'm worried about what you're saying. Like, you are not representing yourself the way that we know you can. We, as a unit, if you're Coach Witt and the defense, are not representing ourselves the way that we know we can. We're doing ourselves a disservice. We're disrespecting ourselves. Go out there and make it happen. So I think that, it's the 5th ranked passing offense. The Los Angeles Chargers offense is, even without that offensive line at full health, you got to be able to compete in this game and not let the Chargers just kind of do whatever they want all over the field. Some key matchups when the Commanders have the ball: interior offensive line versus the Chargers interior pass rush. Jaden Daniels does have that knee brace, so obviously the Chargers are going to look to test that out. They're going to look to flush him. You got to do your best to protect him. That goes every game, but especially this game with that knee brace on his knee. The Chargers have shown a vulnerability on their side of the ball to interior pressure, so vice versa. You want to get that interior pressure on Justin Herbert. Speaking of the Chargers offense, when they have the ball, the Commanders' safeties, and of course this goes back to explosives, it goes back to big passing plays, not just on the safeties, of course, but specifically the safeties against wide receiver Quentin Johnston. Quentin Johnston has had a resurrection of a year for his career. He's been their primary deep threat, and the secondary is going to have real big issues if they start letting him get hot, especially early on in this game. So winning the overarching strategy battle, that's one thing. That's a great part or a great step towards winning the game. But they're truly won and lost games are in situational football, which has been a roller coaster for the Washington Commanders through 4 games. So we're going to dive into that coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Commanders brought to you in part by Square. Running a business means every day is a new opportunity, a new person to meet, a new idea to share, and a new challenge to face. But to make the most out of every opportunity, you also need the right partner. I'm always looking to support local businesses when I'm on the road. I went to Jim's Drive-In to get a burger and some fries for lunch before I headed out to practice. And this Saturday, I'm going to be checking out Sip and Sonder here in Inglewood. It's businesses just like those at the heart of the community that Square is built to support. Square has the tools to help your business thrive, like the Square Stand, a powerful point of sale solution with a built-in card reader, or Square Appointments, which helps you manage your schedule and free up your time for the things that matter the most. And they both work with Square's business checking account, so you get instant access to your funds. So find out how Square can help your business go further at square.com/go. That's square.com/go to get started today. This episode is also brought to you in part by Mazda, and it's brought to you by Mazda's Moving the Game Forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that just do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, they move culture, and they keep the game moving forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward was Chris Rodriguez Jr.'s explosive 48-yard run against the Atlanta Falcons. It wasn't just a big gain, it was the flash of the game-breaking ability that really energizes the entire offense. It really kind of gave you a moment to say, okay, things could be okay here in this game. Obviously, ultimately, the Commanders end up losing. So unfortunately, it kind of goes by the wayside. But it did show that even when the team is struggling, a single play can shift momentum and provide a spark. So keeping the team moving forward, no matter what, is obviously the key in all of these competitions. And when you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. Just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to every Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. The Washington offense has to figure out how to solve its own third down crisis, while the Commanders' defense tries to solve its own third down crisis, and just avoiding catastrophic breakdowns that have kind of defined some of these losses. And even one of the victories, Las Vegas Raiders, you saw the Raiders kind of go off for some good yardage against the pass defense there in Washington. So let's get into the situational game plan part of our end of week episode here. I'm going to go open field. We're talking about between the 20s, third down, clearly one of the most important down of the game of every drive. And then red zone, we're going to do both sides of the ball when the Commanders have the ball, when the Chargers have the ball. And I feel like if the Washington Commanders can achieve all 6 of these things, you have a dominant win. The more of them you achieve, the more your chances increase of winning the game. In the open field, I think, again, it's got to revolve around getting that run going, but not just running for run's sake, right? But look, all 3 of the Washington Commanders running backs, Chris Rodriguez Jr., Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, Jeremy McNichols, great rushing averages. You know what I mean? And I would even say, like, Chris Rodriguez Jr., his rushing average would be a little bit better, but going up against like the Las Vegas Raiders, he's that end of game back that's going to go in there and get the 1 yard, the 2 yard, secure the football, let the clock run so that you can kind of just drain the life out of the game. That knocks your average down just a little bit, but it's very effective for what the team is trying to do. Get that run game going, because then it sets up the play action, right? I go back to that Terry McLaurin 50-plus yarder against the Las Vegas Raiders. It didn't just happen because Marcus Mariota's got the arm to get the ball down there, and Terry McLaurin has a route running, catching ability, tracking ability, all that stuff to make the play. It happened because the Las Vegas Raiders were stacking the box. They were stacking the box because the Washington Commanders were running the ball so effectively, but they were also dedicated to running the ball consistently, and that forced the defense to adjust that way. Gave one of your best, or not your best receiver, an opportunity one-on-one out there with the defender, and you take advantage of it. You don't have Terry McLaurin on the field. You don't have Noah Brown, but you do have capable receivers, right? Deebo Samuel, even deep, has some ability. Jalen Lane has the ability. Luke McCaffrey is on a 2-game scoring streak, looking to make that 3 games in a row. Those types of things. And those are going to be the opportunities you need to look for. You want to get these guys open. You want to get these guys looks. Part of the way you do it, yes, you want receivers that can just naturally separate. Of course you do. But how the scheme can help those receivers get separation, even if they can't necessarily manufacture it as much on their own, is by getting teams to bite on those play actions. You do that by establishing the run. So between the 20s, really just in general, man, you got to establish the run. Third down, this is the major weakness for the Washington Commanders offense. 33.3% conversion rate so far this season. That is the bare minimum. 33%, I've always said, is the bare minimum you expect to convert on third downs. That is what the Washington Commanders are doing right now. I think the strategy, get some screens going, get some quick throws going in those situations. The Chargers have proven to be vulnerable in their short area zones. So when you get in those situations, use that against them and convert those third downs at a higher clip. Red zone, Incredibly efficient offense the Washington Commanders have in the red zone. 77.8% of their red zone trips produce touchdowns. That's great. It's an amazing number. The problem is sustaining drives long enough to get into the red zone to take advantage of that 77.8% red zone conversion rate. Of course, with Jaden Daniels back, specifically look for Zach Ertz in the red zone. I think look for Chris Rodriguez in the red zone as well. Get those short yardage runs, do those kinds of things. Maybe hit them with a play action, Zach Ertz over the middle type of thing. But you got to get to the red zone first. The way you do that, convert those third downs. The way you do that more is get into third and manageable, third and shorts by establishing the run. See, they all kind of go hand in hand as we go through this. Now, when the Commanders' defense is on the ball, I think first thing between the 20s, you got to be disciplined in your rush lanes. Justin Herbert is not known as the most mobile quarterback. But if you even go back to week one in their win over the Kansas City Chiefs, this is a quarterback who, if you give him the opportunity, will take real estate with his legs and take those opportunities. So you got to be disciplined in your rush lanes. You got to be consistent in dominating the point of attack in the line of scrimmage. This Chargers offense likes to run a lot of duo, so you got a lot of double teaming defensive linemen. You got to punish them. You got to get linebackers in there hitting hard, running fast, breaking up those double team blocks, filling those gaps. You got to get D linemen who are going to fight. I know double teams are hard. Nobody's saying that it's easy, but fight to hold your spot on the line. Don't get pushed out of there. And again, those second level defenders, when you see it, recognize it, click on it, close on it quick, and get in there and disrupt that kind of thing. Force them into those third and long situations where then you can let loose on your pass rush. Third down, the performance on third down obviously directly correlates to winning percentages. 50% conversion rate allowed in both losses this year for the Washington Commanders defense. Before the two wins, third down conversion rates are much, much better. The Chargers, incredibly predictable, as most teams are. Third and short, they're going to run 88% of the time. So the defense has to be able to stop the run in those situations. But, of course, you want to get them in third and longs, force Justin Herbert to throw. Yes, I'm not saying he's like the weakness or anything like that, but you always want to be in that situation where you can pin your ears back, rush the passer. Hopefully you get him to make an overthrow, an underthrow, or a throw too far inside or outside where your DBs are. Come up with those opportunity interceptions like defensive coordinator Joe Witt Jr. has talked about multiple times since he's been hired here on the team. In the red zone, this is a matchup of weaknesses, right? The Chargers offense is 29th in red zone touchdown percentage, only converting 36.4% of their red zone possessions into touchdowns. So they don't really have that red zone identity kind of figured out. The Commanders, however, have had a very inconsistent red zone defense. So, again, figure out what it is the Los Angeles Chargers like to do, try to do things like that, cover their best players in that area, use your strengths to your own abilities and advantage. And out there, which weakness becomes a strength on Sunday afternoon, probably going to have a big, big impact on who comes away with the win. So there's some X's and O's. I went a little bit less technical on the language, but still some good X's and O's stuff in there. So now let's look at some players who are going to make some differences and how you can get in on the action with me this weekend. That's coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos, and this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. This is Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or you're cross-training with your favorite instructors like Alex Toussaint. It's training reimagined to make your workout more personal. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with features that help you plan, stay motivated, and hit peak performance. You can let yourself run, lift, flex, and go while Peloton handles all the rest. Plus, Peloton IQ provides real-time strength coaching, tracking your progress and suggesting weights that challenge you so you can get stronger. Plus, the new movement tracking camera, it counts your reps and corrects your form in real time, making sure every rep is safer and smarter. So let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
This Sunday's game features a matchup of two teams who have some major milestones within reach. Of course, the milestone they want to hit first and foremost is the next win. Commanders looking to get to 3-2. Chargers looking to get to 4-1. And we've got some players to watch on both sides from a statistical standpoint. And for fantasy enthusiasts out there, which I know a lot of you are, your focus, in my opinion, should be on Chris Rodriguez Jr. So some milestones to watch. Wide receiver Deebo Samuel. We've been on this watch for a couple of weeks now. We kind of knew he wasn't going to get it the first week we talked about it. But here, he just needs 4 receiving yards to become the third player in NFL history to have 5,000 receiving yards, 1,000 rushing yards in their first 7 seasons. The other two, Bobby Mitchell and Charlie Taylor, Washington legends. It's basically a thing. If you want to be a guy that gets 5,000 receiving yards and 1,000 rushing yards in your first 7 seasons, you got to spend at least a little bit of that time in Washington. So look out for that. Keenan Allen only needs 2 receptions to pass Marvin Harrison as the fastest player in NFL history to reach 1,000 career receptions. So good possibility that he's going to get that. And of course, every week I try to give you a fantasy football must start. The caveat being, if Jaden Daniels is on your roster, I think you're starting Jaden Daniels every week. So really, the fantasy must start is almost never going to be Jaden Daniels unless I'm just like chomping at the bit, thing like this is going to be like a 40 burger, like a 40-point fantasy point, explosion. Then maybe, but for the most part, it's not going to be Jaden. So if you have Jaden on your roster, I would highly recommend you start Jaden Daniels. But outside of that, I'm going running back Chris Rodriguez Jr. Now, running back Chris Rodriguez Jr., first of all, he's been the starting running back for the last 2 games. He was inactive for the first 2. He's been the starting running back for the Commanders the last 2 ever since Austin Eckler got injured. He's the guy really trying to set the tone with. Again, that 48-yard run last week, all those things, 7.2 yards per carry. And the matchup here is favorable. The Washington Commanders got that 48-yarder from Chris on the right side of their offense. That's the left side of the Chargers defense. The left side of the Chargers defense this year is allowing 13.33 rushing yards per carry. And yes, I confirmed that because that's a wild number. However, they've also only faced 6 runs on that side so far through 4 games. So teams aren't really challenging them over there. I want to see the Washington Commanders challenge them. They're strong on that side. Go out there, dominate the run game. And I want to see more Bill. I want to see more Chris. So honestly, you might be able to go with either of them. The real tipping point is going to be who gets the touchdown, who doesn't. Chris Rodriguez Jr., 2 games active, hasn't had a touchdown yet. I think maybe he's going to be due in the red zone this week. So I'm rolling Chris Rodriguez Jr. I've got him on my roster, so I'm putting him in there as a starter. So you know that I'm putting my not money because, well, it's money because it's a money league, but not a week-to-week money. Speaking of week-to-week money, some FanDuel wagers that I'm getting in on. And of course, these are all FanDuel lines at the time that I planned this episode. They may have shifted since then. But remember, this is all for fun. I am putting real money on it, but make sure you play within your means like I do. I'm putting $10 on every single one of these bets. I've got a low risk wager, medium risk, high risk, and extreme risk. The low risk for me, Commanders plus 2.5 points. What that means is the Commanders either win outright and you win. If the Commanders lose by 2.5 points or less, so clearly less than 3 points, then you still win. So that's where you get the plus 2.5 points. I think the clock control style of play itself is going to lead this to be a close game here in Los Angeles. Medium risk wager, Justin Herbert over 1.5 passing touchdowns. And I think the rationale here is, again, the secondary has been susceptible. Wouldn't mind losing this one, to be quite honest with you, although I do like my $10. I enjoy talking about winning football with you guys more. And if they hold him under 2 passing touchdowns, I think that means the Washington Commanders have a very high chance of having a win in this game. High risk, same game parlay. I love same game parlays. Commanders plus 2.5 points. Again, we're taking that there. Over under on the total point score between both teams, 47.5. I'm going under. Again, the Commanders follow my game plan idea, run the ball. That clock's going to drain quick. Not going to be a lot of possessions, not going to be a lot of points. And a Keenan Allen anytime touchdown score, I am adding that in there. Overall, the line is plus 155, or at least it was when I built it. And so that's where I'm going for my high risk same game parlay. Extreme risk, Zach Ertz to score the first touchdown for the Washington Commanders is plus 850 odds on that one. They get in the red zone. Look, I think Chris Rodriguez is probably good for a rushing touchdown this week, but Jaden's back on the field. He loves him some Zach Ertz. You know they want to get a passing touchdown for Jaden back home here in SoCal. I don't think it's going to be the main reason for the play call, but it's just a really good play call over the time that Jaden has been here at all. So those are my wagers. Again, I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I do actually put those wagers out there. If you do, please be responsible and play within your means. That's going to do it for today's episode. Next time on Locked On Commanders, we will be talking following the Washington Commanders Week 5 matchup against the Los Angeles Chargers. Don't forget, the all-new Commanders squad goes live right after the game ends. Both those guys go live. Nick Ashush and Anthony Armstrong, former Washington wide receiver, go live on the channel here on Locked On Commanders on YouTube. I do the press conferences. I do the locker room. As soon as I'm done, I head to the field and I join them for usually the last 15 minutes or so before I go upstairs and plan out the rest of our regular episode of Locked On Commanders. So a whole lot of Commanders conversations going on post game here on Locked On Commanders channel and Commanders Squad. In the meantime, if you got questions or comments, text them to me directly. Become a Locked On Commanders insider at joinsubtext.com/Locked On Commanders. The NFL season is rolling, and you can get 2 doses of NFL talk every single day. Locked On NFL today Locked On NFL is your twice a day solution to getting all the NFL news you want. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you're listening to this podcast. To the everydayers, I see you and I appreciate you every single day. A special thank you goes out to you again today for coming through for another episode. For everybody out there, if you're out and about, please be safe, be kind to one another. We'll talk again real soon right here on Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.